Hey, family, go ahead on and tag share. Let's get everybody in. We got an exciting conversation today, right here on Wake Up Wednesday. That's right, it's going to be life changing. I'm talking with Dr. John Tate Sanders. That's right here on the hottest show on 95.3. Let's go. Hey, Miss Carolyn, how are you? Want to say good afternoon. Welcome to, once again, the Greg James Community Show right here on, that's right, Hallelujah 95.3 FM. And listen, I'm excited about the day's show. So much going on in and around Tallahassee. Normally I kick off the show with Tallahassee Talk, do about 3 minutes. But today, I'm just going to do a minute and a half because I just don't have the energy to talk for 3 minutes. I just can't talk Tallahassee Talk for 3 minutes today. So much going on in and around our city. I'm going to take a deep breath. And all right. Well, I want to say congratulations to one, Darryl Jones, and new school board member, unopposed. So certainly want to say thank God for him and the work that he's doing in and around our community and the work that he is doing at the Leon County School Board. So he went unopposed. So that means that the district is absolutely in favor of his work ethic. So congratulations to him. Also want to give a big congratulations to Marcus Nicholas. One thing about this young man, after going through the first election cycle facing school board member Joy Boyens, and after losing, he continued to be present and continued to pursue working in the community. And that lets us know that he really has a heart for the community. And he's not just after a position. He's not just after a title. He's after purpose. And when you're after purpose, it makes what you're doing so much easy. So I want to give a big shout out to him. And certainly we applaud our school board member, Joy Boyne, for the outstanding service that she has provided year upon year as to how she was a voice, not only just for the district, but a voice for the county, just for children, for faculty, for teachers, you name it. She was that voice. And I've called on her on so many times, so many occasions. And not only did she lend a helping hand, but she lended a helping voice and a helping ear to make sure that a matter was resolved. So we give a big congratulations to her for the service that she has provided. And she'll still provide that kind of service, because when helping people is in your heart, then that's all you can do but help people. So we thank God for her and the tenure that she has provided. So with that being said, big shout out to Dave for the cutting of the ribbon out of the new, I don't know what I want to call it. I mean, they are calling it the skateboard arena, a big rattler in the middle of it. And so big shout out to that for that. And so with that being said, I'm going to just say, let's keep our city in prayer. Let's keep leadership of our city in prayer. And let's remember that life is too short for you to take your finger and start pointing at people. So you just remember that we are our brother's keeper. And I want you to really walk in that manifestation of being a brother's keeper to our friend and our brother, Mr. Andrew Gillum. Let's just keep him in prayer. All right. And I think when we do that, God gets the glory, and we will find the kind of peace that we need. All right. With that being said, I'm getting ready to tell you that we are about to have a conversation. I'm going to open up the phone lines too, 850-671-1450. Not now, but I'm going to tell you when to call. But I'm excited to have sitting in the studio with me. I had an opportunity to meet this young man, and I was just so impressed with the work that he's doing when it comes to educating our community, when it comes to empowering our community, informing our community. I was just so impressed until I wanted to make sure that we partnered and we did what we needed to do, because the Bible said people perish for a lack of knowledge. Not saying that knowledge isn't there, but when you don't have the knowledge inside or in front of you, it causes you to perish. I want to say good afternoon to Dr. John Tate Sanders. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Pastor James, for bringing me in today.
Well, listen, I'm excited to have you because I just feel like the 15,000 that are listening to our broadcast today need to hear some of the things that we were able to talk about. And one of the things that I'm excited about, you are a part of a company that's called Indelible.
Yes.
Okay. And what I love about this company, it is owned by young African-American males, graduates of FAMU. Let's talk a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about the company. Tell us a little bit about the owners. And for those of you who love to Google, who got that Google spirit, it's on you. Whatever happens, you're going to Google. And the reason I know that because they do that to me all the time. And when they Google, it becomes Indelible.
It does.
Tell us a little bit about the company.
So Indelible, as you said, it is owned by two very bright young black men from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, two graduates out of the SBI program. This program, or this business, was founded in 2018. And what it is it's a compliance-driven consulting firm that we consult on various entities, on ways to improve our community, on grant management, on hurricane relief efforts, on anything compliance and quality assurance. As of recently, since November, he's added on the sector of the health and human services sector, which I am part of, and I manage under the leadership of Dr. Shamiria Robeson, who is a former Deputy Secretary of Health for the state of Florida.
Wow. So let me put a pin there. So Dr. Robeson is a part of this amazing company, amazing team.
Yes, she's our president.
Wow. She brings so much to the table.
She brings a great vision, especially for our community and the needs. One of our biggest emphasis is health equity, and ensuring the health equity of our community, especially our people of color, ensuring that we have our hands up. So we're doing whatever we can do to ensure that our community are knowledgeable of the different entities as it pertains to health and improving our health, rather that's health literacy, rather that's housing assistance, just various factors.
Wow, I wanted to stick a pin in that with Dr. Robeson, because I recall when she was at the Department of Health, when she was serving in that role, one of the things that really just, melted my heart was the love and the compassion that she had for making sure that, minorities understood what we were dealing with when it came to issues of health. Mm-hmm. And she wanted to have a presence. She wasn't just behind the desk, signing off. She was in the community, being heard and making us aware of what was available. So to have her as a part of that team, I think that is amazing. And health equity is so important when we look at our community. When we look at our community, I love to say, I'm great at taking liabilities and turning them into assets. But when we look at the liabilities that we're facing with health, how do we change it?
It's a very one thing. The way to change our health is to be informed,
and being informed is so important. And when people are not informed, they find themselves, I hate to use this word, but they find themselves in a state of ignorance acting as though they know more than they should know and absolutely know nothing.
Correct. And even worse, at the worst end of the health outcome aspect. When you're not knowledgeable what's around you and opportunities that are provided to our counterparts, and that's accessible to us. Like you said, you can become ignorant and not knowing and not really have the health that we should have as a population.
And when we find that happening, your role with the company now, and we're moving really a little fast, but because we're talking about your role and what you're doing to help our community, I think that going into and doing outreach, what are some of the challenges that you see that the minority communities are faced with?
Awareness. Knowing where to get the resources, how to decipher between what is right and what is wrong, or what is good information versus what is misinformation. Because as you know, one thing COVID has taught us is everyone has become a subject matter. So that has been very detrimental to in a lot of ways, because it's who do you trust? COVID has caused us to not trust the government, persons on the opposite political side, rather one or the other, individuals within your family. It's caused a huge division based off of, again, ignorance. So one of the biggest things that us as a culture and as a community have to do is we have to start doing the research ourselves. We can't get that secondhand knowledge, what's posted on social media. When we hear something, we have to do a little bit reading on our own, or finding someone who can get us that resource.
Wow. Well, here you are, you're part of a minority-owned company, 2 African-American males, and there are a plethora of things that you all are doing at the company, but your main department under Dr. Robeson is health.
Correct.
And you are the manager of the Health Human Services. So what I want to ask is, and I know that, you and I have had several conversations that brought us to this point, that brought us to what I'm looking forward to, is being able to really educate and empower our people, because especially African American men, talking health, talking doctors, talking informative information to us is difficult.
It is very difficult.
Why?
Well, one of the things that us as Black men, and I could go take it back. Look, we're stubborn in our ways, and historically we has also put our money first over our health. So we're less likely to go get the preventive care that we need to and seek the guidance from our physicians or medical providers. So, when it comes down to our health, we always end up being on the worst end of the spectrum because we wait too late. I'll give you an example of Tallahassee and the surrounding counties. Talk about the stroke belt and chronic diseases. As we know, over time, chronic diseases has increased significantly. Infectious diseases have gone down. Many of those factors are right here, Tallahassee, Gaston County area. These counties, we're in what is called the stroke belt. And what that entails is we have more mortalities in this area due to chronic diseases than a lot of other areas. And you know why? It's because of the lack of knowledge, the lack of preventive care, and really taking care of ourselves. So one of the things is, we all have gone through those things, especially as men. We have to recognize that our health comes first. It's all right to miss a day of work and go take care of ourselves. It's okay to listen to our spouse and get that kind of information. And not only that, the most important thing is really listening to our body, because our body tells us, but we push it a little bit more just to get that extra. We push and we keep pushing, and we don't pause and reset and say something's wrong.
Wow. I'm listening to you, and I'm really being moved by what you're saying, because information becomes the driving force that makes the change that needs to happen in all of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have the information you need, then you're going to find yourself in a place called stuck. But when you do have it, then it gives you an opportunity to drive your life into a better direction. You are, along with your team, you all are making ways into the community to provide the kind of health information that's needed. We see now that there is a really increase now in COVID that is happening right here in our city. I think statistics say we're up 20% in the number of COVID cases that are happening. What are some of the things that your company is doing as far as sharing information and giving preventive insight to what we're facing? Vaccination is a major part, but I understand you all are sharing information with those who may have various illnesses that may prevent them from having the vaccination done.
You're correct. As you said, we're looking at in Florida, the rates of COVID has increased up to about 14 to 16%, roughly. In Tallahassee area, you're looking at 17 to 20% increase rate, so which is higher than the state average. As it pertains to COVID, how do we combat that? The biggest things is getting our COVID vaccine. If you had those, ensuring that we're getting that extra booster shot. And what we are as Indelible, one thing we're educating individuals is that additional option, which is monoclonal antibody therapy. Our body naturally builds those or make antibodies. However, there are antibodies that are manufactured to help us boost our immune system so that we can combat these various viruses, such as COVID. One that Indelible is educating individuals on is called Evusheld. That's EVUSHELD. And it is a FDA approved for emergency use drug to help with prevention of COVID for up to 6 months. And what Evusheld is for is particular for those individuals who may be immunocompromised. Your daughter or your wife who may have breast cancer, or your mother or someone else who may have a cancer, someone who may be living with HIV or tuberculosis or some of these other immunocompromised diseases or illnesses. So what this does is it provides them that extra boost of protection up to 6 months. So yeah.
Wow. And basically, how is this being? I know you are out. What has been the response from those who are sitting listening to you share information about Evusheld and about what it can do to help in the area of prevention?
We got a lot of positive feedback because they didn't know this option was available.
Wow.
And that's the biggest thing, educate, because they don't know.
Right.
We're not educated as much. We hear about vaccine, but we're not really educated on that additional option, especially as it pertains to Evusheld, because this is a drug as well as other monoclonal therapies that can help with our elderly family members who may be, as I stated, immunocompromised, who can't or may not be able to get the vaccine because of allergic reaction to some of the ingredients that are in the vaccine, that can't take that vaccine. So even, it's not saying not to get the vaccine, because it's encouraged to get the vaccine first, but you can also get this buffer, additional layer antibody for protection. You will need to get it within a 2-week span, so you can't get it at the exact same time, but you have to wait like 2 weeks in order for you to get the Evusheld after receiving the vaccine if you're trying to do it around the same time. But it's not too late to go get it. It's available, and you can speak to your provider, your physician who can educate you a little bit more on it. But it's an option out here for us.
Wow. And so it does not matter if you've taken the vaccine a year ago, every show is still available to you as well.
Correct.
Wow. Wow. Well, listen, I tell you, I'm excited about what the company is doing. I'm always seeking information. I'm always trying to become more knowledgeable about what is available and how can this be applied to our lives. Hey, Margaret, how are you? Glad to have you tuned in. As a matter of fact, glad to have you tuned in, Sylvester, Cassandra. Thank you all for joining us on Facebook Live, YouTube. I'm talking with Dr. John Tay Sanders, who is the manager of health and human services for the company Indelible. And we're talking about options. We're talking about what is available for those persons who are living with symptoms and diseases that may prevent you from the vaccination. And one of the things that he has said that is so valuable is that we must become informed. We must take it upon ourselves to research, because it's only through the research that we're going to have the knowledge that we need to make an informed decision. Would you say that?
I would say that.
Wow. So here it is. It's a company that is owned by two African American males. They have been around since 2018.
Yes.
And man, they're making their marks in the nation.
We really are. We expanding rapidly. We are pushing some of these big dogs to the side, and we're pushing them over to try to take over. So again, they're an amazing company, two amazing individuals who have a great vision. They came together, and it's probably one of the most diverse companies you'll ever see. And they're, taking individuals from a lot of the other larger consulting firms and even a lot of the top representatives in the state. And they're building a great team. They have a great team led by Joshua Hay, which is the CEO, and Michael White is the other owner.
Wow. And you're a major part of that new department that they put together when it comes to health equity. I want to switch. The conversation just for a little bit, because you're living here in Tallahassee and you see all of the gun violence that's taking place. I want to say that I want to say it has a lot to do with health. I mean, I think it's a health epidemic that these young men are dealing with.
It's a resource epidemic.
Wow.
One thing we know is when we get bored, we find things to do. And some individuals are choosing to do things probably not the right way. So, if you're not, as far as just say out South Side, which is considered a food desert.
Mm-hmm.
And a job desert, because there's not a lot of opportunities even on the south side of town. What are those individuals who don't have transportation? What are they going to do?
Would you say it's a health desert as well?
It is a health desert. It is a health desert. That's where that health equity, access to health, access to care, access to transportation, access to various resources, that in that entire the areas where we've seen these high crime rates, there is a health inequity, a lack of resources, a lot of all these various things that increase our crime. You see, it's not only in Tallahassee, you see it everywhere, where there's an increased crime rate in these particular areas where there's health inequities.
Wow. And one of the things that I'm a firm believer on is that when you look at where we see what we see, we can see every area that would give us potential hope. There is none. No access. No. There is resources, but we just don't have the access to the resources.
Correct.
And how do we change that? I mean, how do we change that? Here it is, your company, minority owned, and basically you're out here saying, let me give you information, let me educate you, let me inform you. and I'm sure it's not as easy as you would like for it to be.
It's not as easy. However, how we change is we have to stand as one. One thing you find in a lot of other cultures, I'm gonna use Asian cultures as an example.
Okay.
They stick together. When they go to school, you'll see them together. Everywhere you go, they stick together. As a Black culture, we have to stick together. We have to be that one voice. If we find the crime rates high, we need to everyone in that neighborhood, speak together as one voice. We have to show our numbers, be there in numbers. We can't, just be on social media and we're gonna post our displeasure on here or we're gonna say that, but we have to come together. We gotta let our local politicians know. We gotta let our local law enforcement know. We need to let them know of what we want and really push to get that infrastructure in these areas where there are high crime rates. Push to get restaurants and additional stores and opportunities in these areas. Push so that we can get a grocery store, a neighborhood grocery store in our areas. Push to get books in our classrooms so that we can continue to educate our young ones. We have to be that force together. And one thing I don't see as much is that togetherness. And that has to change. But becoming that one unit and saying this not okay. It's not enough. What you're doing is not enough. You see even in the city of Tallahassee where they may allocate millions of dollars for landscape and flowers in one area, and you see only about $100,000 designated to another. That's an imbalance.
Well, okay, and it's amazing you're saying that, and I think that is so key because now it goes back to what you said. I mean, if we don't, as a group, create the kind of push that we need, then we're going to always stay where we are. And we're going to always complain about what we always complain about, and nothing is going to change.
Correct.
Go ahead.
We have to be solution driven. You can complain, but if we're not solution driven, we're never going to get that change. If we're not speaking together as one, we're never going to get that change.
And why is it that, when we talk about health equities, I got to go, why is it that even when we found ourselves dealing with this pandemic and we found ourselves faced with a solution to help fight off this I don't want to call it beast, but we found ourselves trying to fight off this infectious disease virus that was invading our body. Why is it that our thought process always was driven to what they're trying to do to us? What are they trying to wipe us out? What brings on that mindset?
Well, I call it a stuck mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a mindset that's living in the past. And the past is good from an education aspect, but it's not always applied to the present day. We all understand what has happened with the Tuskegee study, and that's been a big part of the belief in the vaccine. However, I'm just a firm believer that I don't think the government would try to wipe us all out at the same time.
Why? Absolutely. Okay.
Our same white counterparts are taking the same drugs, so I don't think they will be intentionally drugging themselves and drugging us at the same time.
But it's hard. It was hard for us to see that. It was hard for us to really, put that into a place of rationalizing that they're not trying to wipe us out. Mm-hmm. It was hard for that to happen. You looking at the fact that health equities are there and looking at us as a culture and looking at the numbers are constantly increasing because we're dying because of health issues. Do you feel like the church has a major role?
Oh, of course.
What that role look like?
I mean, the church is a big part of the Black culture.
Okay.
And it's a big part of not only Black culture, but Hispanic culture in general. So that voice and most of our information comes from the church, from the pulpit. So saying that a pastor should be that leading voice, I'm not always I won't say that it should always fall on that entity. However, I believe that the church is a great resource to get the information because that's a trusted environment. When it comes down to our ancestors and our family, one thing we lean on most is the book, the word, and the church. That's our safety zone. That's our doctor. That's our hospital. That's where we get all our information from. So that's why that push and getting that information and providing it in those faith-based environments is important.
Well, here you are, and I don't know whether you want to respond to this or not, and I don't want you to feel like I'm putting you on the spot, but here you are in a company that's owned by two African-American young men, and you realize the value of the voice of the church. When we look at our community as a whole, do you feel that the church, with its leadership and being that trusted voice in the community, should be a place that gives the directive as to how government, how the community moves forward?
I think there should be a voice. I don't think it should be the only. Again, when you look at even what has occurred, and in certain churches, people have a discomfort, and we've seen over the years, but people, less people are going to church today than it was 10, 15
Absolutely.
years ago. So how do you capture those individuals or not? And that trust, even within some of the churches, have been broken, especially from a leadership aspect. So the thing is, it goes back to trust. You got to trust that person that's speaking, that leader, to lead. And so, and again, I'm not a believer that everything needs to fall on the pastor, because that's what, you have other individuals in the church, rather that's your deacons, your deaconess, just, whatever a church may call them. But you have those individuals to fall on to help spread that word, the workers of the, other pastors.
Right. I mean, and when you look at what we're facing, even with the health crisis, and, you're not out here just for your health. You're not just out here just because this is a job. I think this is a mission for you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure that your studies brought you to the place that you're on. But I'm sure that every day you wake up, you're on a mission. And that mission is to empower and to educate someone about what needs to happen to secure that they have a healthy lifestyle.
Oh, yeah. I grew up in a family that father was military, mother's a social worker, family in between of those who may have had and had not. Seen, grandfather very ill, suffered from chronic diseases, congestive heart failure. I've seen it all, seen the strokes. So when it comes down to health, is important to me. It is important for my people to know and be aware of what their behaviors can lead them to, their behavior and the choices that we make. That choice not to go seek care. So many of us, we have health insurance. However, we don't realize that we get that one free visit a year. You're not gonna be charged for that one free visit a year. And that's where it starts. You go back to, we talk about as far as men and what some of the issues, taking advantage of that one free visit a year, that preventive care, so that we can catch that prostate cancer before it spread. So we can catch that potential or that blood clot that may cause us to have a heart attack or a stroke. We have to take advantage and become, again, aware, informed. So again, as you speak, I have that passion because I see the numbers. I've seen the numbers of what has occurred in our community. It even goes down to as far as dental health and dental hygiene. People don't understand that your mouth is the dirtiest part of your body. So if you get a bacteria infection in your oral or your mouth, it can cause you to have a heart attack. That could get into your bloodstream and clog your aorta and cause you to have a heart attack. Our community don't know that. and aren't aware of those things. So it's very important that we take our health serious, and not only, those aspects, but mental health as well, because mental health is a big factor when you're talking about gun violence in our own community. Mental health, not having access to health inequities can contribute to mental health. So we have to be cognitive of those things, and we have to really speak of those things to our family. There's past time, and you hear what grandma and them did, and the same thing goes on and on, but we have to change that. We have to continue to research and be informed of decisions that we make.
Absolutely. Listen, I tell you, I made a note here because I'm going to preach this. I don't know whether you know what you said or not, but I heard what you said, and it resonated in my spirit. You said your mouth is the dirtiest part of your body. Now, with that being said, not only is it dirty, but it's deadly. So while you were talking, I just created, I don't know what I'm going to preach it, but I'm going to preach you got a dirty mouth. Hey, because really and truly, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And I just believe from a spiritual standpoint, many of us are losing life because our mouth is dirty.
Correct.
We don't speak life. We don't talk life. We allow anything to come out of our mouth. So it's time for us to clean up our mouth. So I want to thank you so much for that. I'll probably send you the ties when I get through. But that was good. That was really, really good right there. You got a dirty mouth. So because you said with the dental hygiene part of our mouth, it causes heart attacks.
It can lead
can lead to a heart attack. So guess what? When I begin to speak things out of my mouth that's not lining up, and this is the faith moment here, so you're going to have to just notice my faith moment. When I begin to speak things out of my mouth that are not lining up with the word of God, listen to what I'm about to say. You are creating a heart congestion. You are causing things to clog your heart. That's why David said, Lord, create in me a clean heart. Why? Because he began to utter things out of his mouth that was not lining up with God, and his heart became hardened, and it became at distance with God. So you better keep your mouth clean, and you won't hear me talk about you got a dirty mouth. You got a dirty mouth. So Dr. Sanders, thank you so much for that moment of inspiration to all of our faith listeners. Amen. So let's talk about what is in store for what the work that you're doing, what's coming up on the calendar, what are some of the things that you all are doing when it comes to outreach in our community. How can people get in touch with you if they want you to speak to a group? Just how? Because I think it's so important that people know that information is available. They got to learn how to access it. They got to learn how to access it. And here you are working with a minority-owned company, two young men, less than 35 years old, maybe, running a multi-million-dollar company, tapping into organizations and tapping into corporations all over the nation. And here we are with Miss Dr. Roberson from right in this area, leading up the health part of it. And we've got to know how to get in touch with you. How does that happen?
So you can give me a call at 850-933-7685, or you can also email me at jsanders, SANDERS, at indelible, INDELIBLE -solutions, SOLUTIONS.com.
Wow. So that's 850-933-7685.
Yes.
So that's the number to call to get in touch with Dr. Sanders to talk more about how his team can. We're in a moment now where we have to take advantage of every opportunity to be informed as possible. We cannot miss those moments, because those moments It's what's going to help maximize the life change that we need. If you know better, my grandma said you ought to do better. So once you become aware, then you need to make that awareness help to advance your life so that you can live a healthy life. You know, one of the things that this is really away from the subject, and I'm going to ask you this because as I listen to you, I'm just so amazed and I'm just so elated that you're here being a young man, having such a heart and a passion for the work that you're doing. I really feel like it's really ministry. And most times when we find ourselves doing ministry, we take it to heart, and because it's meeting the needs of people. What was inspiring for you to find yourself at this place in life? I know you mentioned, the health issues with your grandfather.
The inspiring part for me would probably be my mother.
Okay.
Again, I said earlier, my mother is a social worker. So at one time, she was the executive director for Children's Home Society.
Mm.
So every year, my brother and I, my older brother, we volunteer very regularly at Children's Home Society, dealing and working with disadvantaged children, working with broken families. I used to be at one time president for the Habitat for Humanities, did some things with Big Bean Cares. So being engaged in that community and really seeing the need of what our people go through, seeing what they go through and seeing the needs that we have. And going through my education and working in a state and learning about the unmet needs of our people has driven my passion to where I am today. So, leading up here, I was talking to someone I mentor to, and talking about opportunities even with that person. And, I'm happy where I'm at because, again, I get to wake up and I get to talk about these different things that face our community and hoping that it sticks to one person to save a life.
Wow. I want to go back to something that you said. It not only help your life, but you was also making an impact in the lives of others. And that was volunteering. Your mom was the executive director of Children's Home Society. You and your brother were volunteer. That changed your life. But at the same time, you were changing someone else's life. So there was an exchange that was taking place. There was a transfer that was taking place. What would you say to our young men today? Because we don't see that now. We don't see a whole lot of volunteering. We don't see a whole lot of mentoring. It seems like it's ceasing. What would you say? If our communities are going to get better, if we're going to make the impact that need to be made, what would you say when it comes to that volunteering and that mentoring?
Volunteering and mentoring is definitely, especially important among us as Black men, because like you said, it's not many of us that could look across the table and see another one that we can envision ourselves in. So my approach, I always say, is no one is a stranger. So you can't walk down the street and we can't talk about another person. We have to pull that person in, have a conversation with that individual and building relationships. One of the things about just say living in low socioeconomic status, we're not privy to a lot of things, a lot of knowledge, access to a lot of things that some of us who may be middle to upper class may have. So how do you bring them aware of these other opportunities? You talk to them, get them involved in that way, teaching them and telling them that those opportunities. And that's a way that you can get them to volunteer more. Speaking those positive in these individuals, especially our young Black men and our young women, teaching them to be comfortable in their own skin, teaching them to be visionaries, to see themselves in another place.
Wow. It's so important that what you're saying, for those of you who are listening. I mean, I'm sitting here in awe, because these are the kinds of conversations that must be had at our local level, and they must be had at our state level, and even our national level. And they must be had to the point that we make the investment to help our young men who are taking time to volunteer and who are taking time to mentor. Because, as you said, when we look at our community. They don't see too
Mm-mm.
many of us.
No. And the thing is, there may be many who want to, but don't know how to get out there. Don't know who to speak to. Don't know, how to have that discussion or where they may fit in. When we think about volunteering, unfortunately, some of them don't think about that male to male bond of volunteering that aspect. They may think of it in another way. So how the thing is to get individuals to see where their strength is and where they fit in, and then really and going to do that. Use your passion. If you're a welder or like to construct something, teach a young man how to build a tree house.
They waiting to learn.
Right. Build a dog house or
Mm.
build something like use your passion for your good as a teaching moment. And then we can continue to instill in our young black men and young ladies hard work, dedication, a vision that we can be that too. We can grow older, we can get married, we can get a job, we can do these things. You don't have to have the wealth. But when you got love in your heart, determination in your heart, you can do anything. God in your life, you can do anything.
What's your plight of the black community as you see it now? Is there hope?
There's always hope. There's always hope. When you go in the mindset of believing that it's not hope, then it is no hope. So there's always I'm a believer in always thinking things in a positive aspect.
Okay.
So if I think of it in a negative, that's what you're gonna get. If I believe that my Southside community is gonna rise above this crime, we're gonna come together as one unit. We're gonna speak as one. We're gonna stand up to our local politics. That's what's gonna happen. So it's really being visionary in what you're doing, speaking the positive. It goes back to teaching that in our kids. Speaking positive. Don't tell your child that you can or you won't. Because we know what? They're not going to be able to do it. Why? Because you told them that. So if as a parent, I'm instilling that in my children, what gives them the belief that they can go and do it? So that's applied. So yes, I have hope that my community can rise. I have hope that we're going to go beyond this gun violence in our areas. I have hope that there's going to be a lot of growth in the Southside communities, in these impoverished communities where our people are living. I have that hope.
I just had one of our comments on our Facebook page. I think it was Prophetess Tamara Randolph. She just said, "I like this man's message." And I'm grateful for all of our listeners because the Greg James Ware Community Show is designed to inform, it's designed to become impactful, it's designed to inspire. And when we bring guests on the show, like yourself, who has a love for the health care, a love for the health ministry, your job is being a health human services director working with a major company that's owned and operated by two African American males, being in the community, seeing what you see, being on the South Side, seeing the plight of our community, but yet still remaining hopeful because you remember your humble beginning, volunteering changed your life. And you're still now mentoring, you still have mentees, you still volunteer because you still have that hope. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And once again, tell our audience about your role, the company, and how you all are giving hope to those persons who feel or believe that without the vaccination, there are no options, but you have the options.
Again, we are a minority-owned company led by Joshua Hay, a graduate of Florida Agriculture and Mechanical, and Michael White, also a graduate. We have a health and human sector now that started in November, and our biggest thing is outreach, health equity. And how do we reach that? It's educating you. And one of those things is educating you on these other aspects of COVID. How do I prevent myself from getting COVID? Well, again, there's an available source or medication, Evusheld, which can prevent an individual for up to 6 months. No, it's not a vaccine replacement, but it provides your body that antibody that can build up and help fight off that virus for up to 6 months. Again, it's one that we're not so much aware of because we've been taught about the vaccines. And again, there's nothing against vaccine because that is the first layer that we're pushing vaccines. We want you to get that vaccine. However, there are individuals who can't get that vaccine. So speak to your medical provider and ask them about what monoclonal antibody therapy that are available to you, especially if you or a family member are immunocompromised. You're fighting cancer, you're fighting HIV or AIDS, you're fighting tuberculosis, or any of these other chronic diseases such as stroke or heart disease. Speak to them about these things that may be available to you so that you are protected from COVID.
Well, Dr. Jontavius Sanders, I want to thank you again, man, for joining us here. I want to thank you for just, sharing not only your knowledge of the work that you do, but your heart to do this work. A lot of people have knowledge of the work and a lot of people do the work, but don't have a heart for the work. And, but when you and I met and I heard your conversation, I felt right then that this was not just a job for you. It was like a mission. It's like I'm on a mission to educate, to inform, to inspire as many people as possible, especially people who look like me. And that's commendable because these are tough conversations to have, whether it's in the barber shop, whether it's in the beauty shop, whether it's on the corner, because out of our lack of knowing, we speak ignorant about situations and circumstances that we should have knowledge of. And it spreads like cancer. So it's a hard task for you to come in and treat that cancer that has invaded our community. So I want to commend you for the work that you're doing and for the hope that you have. And it's going to be more men like you that join hands with different passions, but with the same goal in mind, to uplift and to empower our community. That's going to make a difference. So thank you for joining us. And man, listen, I'm looking forward to the continued work that we will do to help educate and to help empower our communities. Hey, this has been the Greg James Community Show. And listen, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank Dr. Jontavius Sanders for joining us. Thank him for being a part of an amazing company, Indelible, owned by 2 African-American males. Thank them for what they are doing. They came together to make what is happening a reality for them. Until next week, I want you to be blessed. I want you to be empowered. And I want you to remember that God is on the side of right. This is Greg James. You be blessed.
Thank you all.